And now, as we near Rosh HaShana, I would like to spend the time that was given to me to see if we can walk out with something that maybe will make a little bit of a difference in the way we view our coming year. Rrabbi had asked me over dinner if I'm going to talk about the vote in the United Nations tonight. So honestly, I wasn't planning about saying anything about it, because to me they don't exist. Who are they at all? That's my attitude. But being that he mentioned, Ein Misavim Lagadol, so at the end, God willing, we'll discuss that too. When we look around the world in life, definitely in tough times it stands out a little more. Sometimes people get a feeling that it seems to be that the rich always get richer and the poor always get poorer. And it's almost not fair. It's like, because I didn't start out rich, so I don't stand a chance. Just because I'm poor, that means that that's the way it's going to be. And that's the view of a lot of youngsters today. Is that true? Maybe that's very far not true. We definitely know new wealth that came out in the past few years by people. And what does this have to do with Judaism, spirituality, and Rosh HaShana? We read in the Torah this past week an interesting mitzvah. A person has a tree, it grows. The first fruit he marks off. It's called mitzvat bikurim. And exactly what's the first fruit that grows on a tree suddenly becomes the property of holiness, the Kohen. And it's brought up to the Bet Mikdash, and it's donated. There's a whole ceremony around it. There's prayers involved. There's blessings involved. A great deal was made out of this first fruit. The Mishnah, when it discusses the laws of Bikurim, has a very interesting law. The Mishnah teaches us that wealthy people bring their fruit, their gift, to the Kohen, to the priest, in golden baskets or silver. And the poor bring it in wooden baskets, woven baskets, like the general commercial baskets that we use today. And the rabbis on this Mishnah explain that the wealthy man comes to the Kohen and he says, here's the fruit that I'm bringing you based on what the Torah commanded me to do. The Kohen takes out the fruit, gives him back his bowl. The poor person, he brings his basket of fruit, and the Kohen takes the basket with the fruit in it and keeps it all. And there you go. The rich stayed rich. He got back his bucket. And the poor got poorer. He lost his basket. And that's a Jewish law. It's so not fair. Should be the opposite. The rich guy should say, hey, give it, no problem, we could use it. Price of gold today, it's worth keeping a basket like that. And the poor guy, this is what he has. Give it back to him. Imagine a poor guy came to give you a gift. You'd feel uncomfortable accepting the gift. So if you'd accept it, not to embarrass him, the next day you'd send him a gift, double the value of what he sent you. It's not nice. That's not what we do. And obviously in the Torah, nothing's done without a reason. And if this is the way it's done, there must be some sort of great message behind it. On this, the rabbis learn in the Talmud a rule. This is what they come out of. Out of all these laws, they conclude. And their conclusion is, after the poor chases poverty. Batar anya azla aniyuta. That's the Talmud's words. After a poor person chases poverty, meaning more poverty. Number one, even if that's true, it's not so polite to say it so openly. Let's be real. And number two, so what? It's a hopeless cause? What's going on? And this is the Talmud's conclusion. This is what we have to conclude out of a whole mitzvah in the Torah. Poor people give up. Is that really what it is? It doesn't make any sense. It can't be. It's so far-fetched that it can't be. But before we go to try to explain this, we have to really understand something. That when the Talmud writes something, God meant business. He wasn't joking around. It's not a parable. It's not something to learn from. It says it, it's a fact. I'll give you an example. A very, very close friend of mine who's today one of the biggest Syrian rabbis in Brooklyn. We spent the weekend recently together, and he shared with me his story. Today, the youth makes a mistake thinking that all of us rabbis were rabbis since we were little kids. Little do they know, well, maybe your rabbi is different, but I'll talk for myself. I was once a teenager too. And if you would have asked me in my teenage years if I'll ever be a rabbi, I'll say I'll be anything but a rabbi. But a rabbi is definitely not an option. And then, you grow older and wiser and different things happen along the way. So this rabbi is in school at Magen David in Brooklyn. And it's a very nice school. And he's in 9th grade, young Brooklyn boy. And his rabbi is trying to teach him in class. Not always an easy challenge. And that day, the rabbi was teaching halachot, Jewish law. In which halachot? Hilchot Mayim Acharonim. This is a chapter in Shulchan Aruch. In very, very brief sentences, when a person eats a meal of bread, at the end of the meal, before he does birkat hamazon, the blessing after the bread, he should go to the sink, wash his fingers, and then do birkat mazon. That's a halakha, that's a law. Why? So it's brought down in halakha, in Shulchan Aruch, that there is a salt that's called melach sdomit, the Saddam salt, and this salt is used in bread. And when you eat bread, you touch the bread and the salt. And if you don't wash your fingers right after, and by accident you touch your eye, you may go blind. Therefore, the halakha says, wash your fingers. And here's a 9th grade Brooklyn boy sitting in class hearing this, and he springs out of his seat, and he goes to his rabbi and he says, "Rabbi, you're kidding, right?" So he says, "No, I'm very serious." He says, No, you're kidding, right?" He says, "No, I'm not kidding, I'm very serious." He says, "Rabbi, what era do you live in? There's no salt like that today. I eat bread every day. I never wash my fingers. I'm not blind. I see perfectly well." Rabbi, you must have confused it. This was for the Kohanim in the Bet Mikdash. In the temple, they had to do things like that. Not me. The rabbi says, "Listen, if you don't understand why, the problem is by you. God doesn't make mistakes. It's a halakha." And he says, "Rabbi, let me tell you. Everything you taught me until now made sense. But this one has no place. Everything else, I accept. This, not for me." He leaves class that day, he goes home that night. His mom, a good Jewish mom, makes him dinner, serves him pizza and Syrian bread, some spices, he eats dinner, does Netilat Yadayim, makes hamotzi, eats the bread, finishes. He's about to do birkat mazon, and the war starts. On one hand, the rabbi just taught, go wash your hands. On the other hand, that's so crazy. Me wash them? No way. Should I? Shouldn't I? Should I? Shouldn't I? And then the craziest thought comes to him. He says, if you're going to give in now, and you're going to go do this tonight, God knows what you'll give in to next. Maybe one day you'll be wearing a black hat. You can't. You got to put a stop to this craziness. Right here it has to be over. No, I'm not doing my machronim. And he opens up the birkon, and he does birkat mazon with more kavanah than he ever has year round. Birkat mazon fueled by no mayim machronim. Goes up to his room to go to bed. He wears contact lenses. Goes into the bathroom, takes out his lenses, and suddenly one of his eyes is burning. He can't handle it. Screams out to his mom, "Mom, something's wrong." She comes running upstairs. "What happened?" "My eye, I can't see. Something's burning me." His mother calls the ambulance. The ambulance rushes him to the hospital. The doctor comes in. They flush out his eye. And then he comes back into tow. This young boy is sitting there in the hospital after being rushed in with a burning eye, and now he has a patch on his eye. And this Gentile doctor, wonderful guy, comes into the room and says this: "What'd you eat tonight for dinner?" So he tells him, "I ate pizza." "What type of pizza did you eat?" He says, regular pizza on Syrian bread. He said, did it have spices on it? He said, yeah, my mother normally puts some chili powders and this and that. He said, yeah, we found a piece of chili in your eye. And then the doctor tells him, listen, buddy, you know that if you would have not came this quickly, in a few more minutes, you could have went blind. And the kid's in awe and he doesn't respond. And he says, I don't understand you. Didn't your mother teach you to wash your fingers when you get done eating bread? And at 10 o'clock at night, he gets released from the hospital. And he gets into his mom's car, and his mom's about to drive home, and he says, Mommy, no. And he says, what do you mean no? He says, you got to take me right away to a different place. He says, where? To a place called Mikdash Melech. It's another yeshiva in Brooklyn. He says, what do you have there at this hour? He says, my rabbi that teaches me in the morning prays there now. So Moses says, who cares what your rabbi does? I got to go apologize. Mom, don't ask. There was a story today. And he goes into the rabbi. And the rabbi sees this young wisecrack coming in with a big patch on his arm. You can imagine a sense of victory inside. And he looks at him and he says, yeah, what happened? He says, Rabbi, Mechila, forgive me. I don't want another patch on the other eye. One is bad enough. Do me a favor. And he tells him the story. And then listen to this. The rabbi tells him, you're a lucky boy. Not everybody is lucky enough in life to get cause and effect that quickly. To get the hit as quickly as that and to realize that God meant business. You're extremely privileged that you were lucky enough that Borei Olam loved you enough to show you that he meant business on the spot. And that he's not joking around. Now use that for life. And that was the beginning of a new beginning, his journey to becoming one of the greatest Syrian rabbis today. So if God writes in the Torah, poverty chases the poor, he didn't write that for no reason. There's a reason behind it. It's serious. So what is it? What's the message? What's going on over here? There's an old Jewish tale, probably this is one of the oldest Hasidic tales around, of the poor man that said he's sick of being poor. And he tries this business and it fails, and the other business and it fails. And every business that he tries, he just gets poorer and poorer because now he owes more money. Finally, he says the problem is that the angel of poverty is inside of him, is glued to him. And he has to get rid of the angel of poverty. So what's he doing? And here, one day, comes to his family. He says, this evening, after I come home from work, we have a very important function to attend. I said, what's the function? He said, we have to go to a funeral. His wife says, oh no, who died? Nobody died yet. Tonight we're going to be burying somebody alive. So I says, honey, is everything okay? I know you're in debt. This is not so good, but from there to become a murderer, it's a little bit too much. And he says, no, it's not a real person. He says, so what is it? He says, I want to bury the angel of poverty that's stuck to me. Alright? Kids are happy, they get to dig. The wife is happy, she gets a night out. That's all her husband can afford. Trip to the cemetery. And the guy is happy because in his mind, over here everything's going to be good. Alright? He goes to the cemetery that evening, the kids are with the shovels, they dig the hole, and he calls the angel of poverty that stuck to him, and he says, right away I'm going to bury you. He bends over, and in his little imagination he threw him in there, and immediately the kids cover him with sand. Feels like a new person. And guess what? It worked. Next morning he goes to work, he's making money. Opens another company, it's making money. Tries a little of this, a little of that, everything's working. There is a sickness out there that not only do we want to be rich, which maybe is a good thing, but we want to see the other person poor. Not enough to be rich. If he has the same thing as me, so it's not good anymore. Once I was traveling somewhere with somebody, And I saw that he had like 2 suitcases, and we were going somewhere for 3 days. I said, what do you need 2 suitcases for? So he starts explaining me. I need 3 suits, 1 for each day, 6 shirts, 2 for each day. So I guess you're like a kid that dirties things quickly or whatever. About 12 ties, and then he says, I always bring extra in case somebody else is wearing the same thing as me. You would think that this is some guy who has no life. I'm a very successful individual in life overall. I always bring extra in case somebody else is wearing the same thing as me. It's a very sad thing. We have to see the other person not doing well. That's also part of the pleasure in life. So this guy suddenly went from a pauper to a successful man. The other rich people in town don't feel so comfortable. You came out of nowhere, suddenly you think you're one of us? No. This is not going to work. So I go with him. And I say, your whole life you made no money. How'd you suddenly make money? What changed? And he's all proud of himself, and he shares with them the stories. I got my wife and my kids, we went to the cemetery, we dug a hole, we took the angel of poverty, we threw him inside, we covered him up quickly, we buried him, we even put matzeva, ponitman, here it's all over. And since then, everything's great. So one of these guys that was jealous of him says, I had the perfect solution. He goes that night to the cemetery. He looks for the grave. He says, I'm going to undig the angel and send him back. And he goes and he undigs the whole grave. And the angel comes out, and the angel thanks him, and he says, no, I dug you out. That guy's such an evil person, he threw you in there, go back to him. And he says, what are you, nuts? I should go back to a guy who threw me into a pit? You're my savior, you're the one who got me out, I'm staying with you. And we broke the rule of the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. But the Torah really over here has a very great message. And here's what I want to talk about tonight. The rich man comes to the Beit Mikdash. And he lays down a big gift. A gift that's in a gold vessel. The nicest fruit. He has a lot of fruit because he has big fields. He's really coming with the best of the best. On one hand, it's amazing. But on the other hand, there's one thing that's not so pure. And that's that the greatest test of life is to give credit where credit's due. And the last thing we deserve credit is making money. Money comes only from God, and the Gemara says it's one of the 3 things that the key to its success is in God's hands and nobody else gets it. Mafteach shel shamim, the key to rain. And some people say, what do you mean? But I go to work every day. I went to college. I have X amount of degrees. I slave away. I saved up. I have a good financial plan. You're going to tell me that I don't get credit for all my money that I have? That's an insult. And on that, there's a very, very sharp line from the Chafetz Chaim. He says some people feel so comfortable in their wealth that they think even God can't take it away from them. I said, and they may be right. But God could take them away from their wealth in 1 second. Meaning, even if you want to take credit for having it, for it staying by you and you staying by it, that definitely every child understands is directly a gift. And that's why the rabbis teach us, Ali Talel Ashir V'Oshro. A wealthy man shouldn't go bragging about his wealth, because it's not you, it was a gift. They gave you a gift. A teenager, if his father buys him a nice car, goes riding around town showing off, my car, my car, my car. But an adult wouldn't do that because they know it's not mine. Somebody gave it to me as a gift. Big deal. If anything, I should be embarrassed if I had to take a gift and I couldn't get it myself. So wealth is the greatest thing. And may all of Am Yisrael always be wealthy. It's the greatest blessing. But it's a blessing. It's not a given. It's a gift. And here the rich man comes to the Kohen and he tells him, here are my fruit that I grew in my bowl. And the Kohen says, none of this is yours. You happen to be the one who's watching it, but it's not yours. It was a gift from heaven. And you consider it yours, you're so proud of it. It smells. Something's wrong. I don't want to keep it. Take it right back. When do people always associate things with God no matter what? when times are tough. Anybody who has a problem, it's automatically God. Why did God make me sick? Why did God make me poor? Why did God this? Why did God that? Why with a long list? The poor man comes with his few little fruit. On one hand, he has a heavy heart. Everybody else has all this wealth, and I have almost nothing. But there's one part of purity to his gift. And that's that he associates whatever he does have completely with God. Maybe for the wrong reasons. But at the end of the day, he understands this is all from God. Comes to Kohen and says, in that case, I want to keep the gift that was given to me. This is a pure gift. Come the rabbis and teach us that if a person wants to be wealthy, the Gemara teaches us that on Rosh HaShana, our wealth for the next year is decided. The words are Kol mizonotav shel Adam kitzuvim lo mirosh Hashanah ad Rosh Hashanah. All the money that we're going to make this coming year is going to be decided on Rosh Hashanah and last until the next Rosh Hashanah. So what's the trick? How can we get a good verdict that we should do well this year, no matter what happens around us in the world, that we shouldn't be affected by it? Come the rabbis and say, the more we associate whatever we do have with the source that gave it to us, the more God wants to have with that. Like Borei Olam, keeping the basket of the poor man. The less we associate it, the more we take credit for ourselves. So God says, okay, so you don't need me. Good luck. Go do it yourself. Go try yourself. See what's going on. And a person on his own, today everybody understands, there's not much that could be done. There is but a little bit more of a resemblance and possibly a blessing that's given to a person. When they give back the basket to the wealthy man, what they're really telling him is, we bless you that next year you should also be wealthy. And you should bring back a golden basket. But not a golden basket that we have to give you back once again, but a golden basket that we'll be able to keep, because this time you'll understand that this basket could have been mine, the Kohen says. I could have kept it. You gave it to me. But I gave it to you as a gift. Now learn about all your wealth and everything else you have in life. Everything in life is one big gift. If a person understands this idea that everything in life is a gift, then we can begin to understand what the children of Reb Chaim Volozhin wrote about their great father in their Hagdama, in the preface to Nefesh HaChaim, the book that Reb Chaim Volozhin wrote. And one of them writes these words which are frightening. V'haya avi mazhir oti tamid. And my father used to warn me constantly. Ki ha'adam lo nivra le'asmo. A person wasn't created for himself. Ki'im, the only purpose of creation, l'sayah l'zulato, to help another person. V'zeh kol haTorah kula. This is the entire Torah. As the rabbis teach us, Torah tchilata chesed. It starts off with stories of charity, v'sofah chesed, and ends off with stories of acts of kindness. Reb Chaim Volozhin's words are very frightening. What did I come to the world for? So you even go to some big Talmidei Chamim, Torah scholars. What do you mean, what did I come for? To study Torah? What else did I come for? To do good deeds? To do this, to do that? And Reb Chaim Volozhin writes, no. All of those are important, but that's step 2. Step 1 is to understand a person was not created for himself. And the only way to understand that is when we understand life and everything that comes along with it is one big gift. Present from Borei Olam. With an understanding of that, I want to share with you a story. 5.5 years ago, people that I know really well, a couple, called me, said they want a favor. Sure, what's the favor? We want you to go to Boston's Children's Hospital. Okay, what should I do there? We have a son who's 11 years old. He's going to be going through open heart surgery tomorrow morning. Rabbi, could you please be there to encourage, pray, and support our child before he goes through this complicated surgery? can't say no to such a request, right? I said, sure, give me the day and time, I'll be there. Tomorrow morning, what time do you want me there? 6 o'clock. See you. Train right away, get to Boston Children's Hospital, I see the parents, give them words of encouragement. I see the kid, give him words of encouragement. They put him into pre-op, they prepare him for the surgery, the parents walk in to say goodbye right before he's going in, and I was going to be the last guy who was going to escort him into the surgery. And we were with a doctor and 2 nurses wheeling him into an operating room where he's having an 8-hour-long open heart surgery. And this 11-and-a-half-year-old boy turns to me and says, Rabbi, do you have a camera on you? I said, what? Yeah, a camera. You have a camera. I said, you think I walk around with cameras? What do you need a camera for? To see if you could get a camera from somebody. So then it dawned on me. I said, wait a second, I have a BlackBerry. They all have cameras. I said, yeah, I got a camera on my BlackBerry. So he tells me, great. Can we get clear pictures on it? So we could try our best. But what do you want pictures of? So I want you to take pictures of me now. So I turned to the kid. His name is Morty. I said, Morty, maybe you're not realizing what's going on around you because could be they gave you already some medication or I don't know what. I want to tell you, you're full of wires head to toe. You're with marks, drawn up because they have to know where they're cutting and what they're doing. You look as scary as could be. Your own mother almost fainted when she saw you. Do you really think that we need pictures of this? And he says, Rabbi, I'm well aware of the way I look, and we must have pictures. I said, listen, I'll take the pictures, but there's one condition. He says, what's that? I said, you got to explain me, what in the world are you going to do with these pictures? And he says, let me tell you what. He says, I'm going into surgery. Most 11-year-old boys don't have to go into a surgery like I'm going into. I do. I'm going to come out of surgery. And I'm going to come out okay. And at that point, if you think about it, I'm a lot luckier than most 11-year-old boys. Because they have a working heart and they don't appreciate it. And I, God willing, will have a working heart and I will appreciate it. And I want to take these pictures and blow them up in big and hang them up right on top of my bed. And I want to write under them in big Hebrew letters, Chazdei Hashem, the kindness of God, Ki lo tamu, which never ended, Ki lo chalu rachamav, that His mercy never finishes. And he went into surgery. After 5 pictures that he had to approve were clear enough. And he came out. There were a lot of scares during his recovery, but he made it out. And it's been 5.5 years now after this story that this kid has a sign on top of his bed. And it travels with him wherever he goes, from dorm room to dorm room, throughout his learning, his camps and other places, of a boy going into an operating room. Chazdei Hashem, the kindness of God. Ki lo chalu, because it never ends. Unbelief. Life is a gift. What that 11-year-old boy understood, I wish, pray, and bless you all, including myself included, that we should understand. That even what seems to be so bad, even what seems to be so wrong, it's also a chesed Hashem. It's also a gift. The poor man, when he brings his basket, he's so frustrated. Look, everybody's with gold. And little does he know, he's the only basket that's being accepted by God. And all the rest is sent right home. Spiritually, he accomplished so much more than everybody else. That's how great he is. And when we understand life is such a gift, we understand those words that we said. You weren't created for yourself. And now listen how a man who lives not right outside of Montreal, I'm sure you all heard his name before, stuck to this mission of not living for himself. The holy Tasha Rrabbi, God should send him a refuah shlema and a long, long, happy life. About 4 weeks ago, a family member of mine who wasn't well asked me for a favor. to go pray by the kivrot tzadikim, the graves of the righteous. And I told him, listen, I'm on a tight schedule. There's no real time that I can fly to Israel and to Europe, as I normally would do. So I'm not really sure what you want me to do, but it's just not going to work. So he tells me, listen, until now we're always running all over the world. And little do we know that an hour or two away from us, we got graves of big tzaddikim, very righteous people. Can you give me a day or two to go to the kivrot tzaddikim in America? So I said, where? What? And then he revealed to me a wonderful website, good for every Jew to know, kvarim.com. Sounds crazy, huh? But it's good to know. We should know where our righteous are buried. And they list every town, every city, every area, which rabbis, what their history was. They even show you pictures so you can find it, because some of these cemeteries are hard to find. Directions, anything you need. Alright. So we mapped off on our list that we were going to go to a few places. Coming from Jersey, driving north, heading towards this area. We were going to stop in Monroe by the grave of the Satmar Rrabbi. And then from there we were going to continue to Rochester, which there are a lot of big tzaddikim buried there, including one big tzaddik Nistad is known for great miracles, especially things that have to do with marriage. And from there we were going to continue to Buffalo, which by now that kever became famous as the first Hasidic Rebbe that ever moved to the United States, is buried in Buffalo, and that's also known to be a place of great yeshua. Alone I didn't want to go. It's 5:30 in the evening when I decided to do this. I pick up the phone, I call one of my assistants, I said, what are you doing tonight? He says, I'm in the office. I said, stop by your house, take 2 days worth of clothes, ask your wife if she has any cookies to sponsor for the cause, and let's go. He says, how many minutes do I have? I said, the less minutes the better. 15 minutes later he's by my house. I'm ready to go, Rabbi. Where are we going to? I said, you brought a passport? He said, no. I said, go get one just in case. He said, why? I said, because with me, we know when we're leaving. We don't know when we're coming back. So like this, it's good to have. He says, fine. We get into the car, we're driving. One of my brothers-in-law calls me, just friendly chat like he does almost every day. He says, what's up with you? I said, we're on our way to Monroe, from there to a few other places to pray. So he says, you're going to pray by the holy sites and you didn't invite me? That's not nice. I said, it's not too late. Meet me in this spot, we'll continue together. He says, what do I need? I said, a passport, 2 days of clothing, and my mother-in-law is a good cook, so I'm not letting her get away with cookies. I said, go get the Shabbat leftovers, put it in a few pans. We should have good food. We went on our little journey. At 3 a.m. we ended up in Rochester, went to sleep, woke up, Vatikim, went to the kivrot tzadikim. From there we continued to Buffalo, and it's around, by now it's about the evening, and I'm zonked. This is after a day and a half of not sleeping, and all that driving, 3 stops on the way, and eating cold food out of cans and whatever, out of containers, you know. The whole thing together didn't sit well with me. I said, we need a little break here. So one of the guys says, I got a great idea, Rabbi. I said, well, he said, 20 minutes away is the Niagara Falls. Let's go get a nice hotel there. We'll relax the night. Tomorrow morning we'll wake up with a clean head. We'll decide where we're going to next. Fine, I'm in. Let's do it. And this is what we do. We wake up in the morning, and my sense of direction with all my travels is exactly 0. So for some reason in my mind, Niagara Falls must be like next door to Toronto practically, and Toronto must be an hour from Montreal. So this was just my little way of thinking at that moment. So I turned to these guys, and I said, listen, Tasha Rebbe's not a young man, and he's a big tzaddik. Let's go get a blessing from the Tasha Rebbe. So I said, Rabbi, but it's far. I said, it's not far. It's an hour away. What are you talking about? An hour away? You nuts. And they said, okay, we're going with you. Now I want to know how to get there, right? So I go down to this concierge guy and I say, how far is Montreal from here? He says, best case scenario, 7 hours. And they're looking at me and I said, guess what? They said, well, we have to go now. I said, why? I said, we said we're going. It's a neder l'dvar mitzvah. It's a promise to do a mitzvah. And we don't have 3 rabbis that could do atarat nedarim for us over here. We're on our way to Tush. Alright, we got into the car, we did our journey. On the way I made a call to one of the Gabbaim, a close friend of mine. I said, we're doing this whole way, it's not for nothing, right? We're going to get in. He says, don't worry, we'll take care of it. And we arrived in Tush about 7.5 hours later. We go into the Rrabbi. The Rebbe's not young, it's very hard to understand what he has to say. He blessed us, very warm, very nice, it was nice to see. We walked out. My right-hand man that was with me, tells me, you don't go for blessings. That's not your style. There must be a real reason why you came. I said, I don't know. It was an instinct to go. I went. That's it. The Gemara says sometimes when you don't see something clearly, your mazal, your internal vision, your instincts see it, and you should go with it because it's like a prophecy. I said, that's why I did it. He said, no, that's not the reason. I had no patience. I told him, I can't reveal you the reason now. You have to wait till midnight. Then I'll reveal you the reason. I figured by midnight he'll be sleeping in the car. I'll forget about it and we'll be free. As we're walking to get back into the car to continue driving, another one of the assistants of the Rrabbi comes to me and says, Rabbi, if you're already here, you got 5 minutes to spend? I said, for what? He said, I got to tell you a story. The story, I have as many minutes as you want. That's my living, man. Let's go. So he sits me down over there in the room, and here's the short story he shares with me. Out of all the stories I heard and shared in my life, I will honestly tell you, this one takes the cake by far. This puts them all to shame. But we got to walk out with something, not just say, wow, you know. Wow, cats do that too. Meow. We're humans. We got to walk out with something in our hand, something that's going to make a difference. Rrabbi spends 4 or 5 months a year in Miami Beach. For a very technical reason, it's too cold. Maybe you should all do that if you could afford it. It's too cold. No, it's really, for a man that age, with his health conditions, it's not safe. 2 years ago, when he was in Miami Beach, some of you may be aware, he fell very ill. He was rushed into a hospital. He ended up being on a respirator for a while. And it didn't look like there was much hope. 24 hours a day, doctors didn't budge from his bedside. They flew in the biggest specialists from all over the world. And who else doesn't budge? All his assistants, his gabayim, we call them. Now imagine this scene. Miami Beach has a lot of religious Jews, but they don't have big Hasidic sects there. They have Satmar, a few of them go during the winter, but that's the extent of it. So in Miami Hospital, which is definitely not acquainted with the New York style of doing things, has a Rebbe in a room with outside doctors babysitting them for days on end, and on top of that, 8 or 10 gabayim of the rabbi clogging the hallways, each one with 2 or 3 cell phones, back and forth phone calls, all day and all night. Everybody in the hospital, you know, in one way or the other is affected by this, let's put it politely. One guy one day sees what's going on, he gets frustrated, he goes over to one of his Hasidic guys, he says, what is this? The guy says, we're bothering you, I'm sorry, whatever, we definitely didn't mean to, we'll try to be more quiet. He said, okay, but at least answer me, tell me what you did this for, what's going on here, what's this chaos for days? He said, we have a rabbi, his name is the Rrabbi, he's very, very sick, and we can't budge from his bedside. The guy says, what's your rabbi's name again? It's the Rrabbi. He says, make as much noise as you want, do whatever you want, just the Rebbe should be better. Yeah, they look at a guy, the last thing he looks like is Hasidic, and what do you have to do with the Rrabbi? He says, let me share with you a story. My grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. He survived the war, and he was one of the few Jews that decided to stay in Europe. He was successful, but he suffered from post-traumatic. Every time he walked the streets, the only memories he had is the horror he's been through. So after 3 years of staying around, he decided he has to get out. And where he's going to, he doesn't really care, because his goal wasn't where to be. He was doing fine where he was. His goal where he didn't want to be. That was the mission. All right. He applies for a visa to go to the United States. They reject him, like they did to many. He applies for a few other visas. They all reject him. And one country accepts him. Canada. Now he's going to Canada. He sells whatever little things he has. He liquidates his assets, and he makes a decision like this. I want to start a new life. So my way of starting a new life is anything I own right now I'm throwing away, and I'm buying myself everything new from scratch. New clothing, new this, everything new. He went to the point that he even gave away his talit and tefillin and bought a new one. That's how far he went. Everything new. And like this, I move to Canada, I start a new life, I forget about the horror, and hopefully I rebuild. Comes the day that he's moving. He has 2 suitcases with all his new items. with the whatever money he has saved up. His whole life is in 2 suitcases. Goes to the train station where he's going to get a train that's going to take him to another place to get a boat and so on until he's getting to Canada. He buys a ticket, puts down his suitcases, pays for his ticket, gets the ticket, sticks it in his pocket, bends down to pick up his 2 suitcases, and they're gone. And the guy later on said everything he went through in the war, this was worse. Because to him, this was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. And he said all he could do there in the train station was with hate turn up to heaven and say, God, do you really hate me that much? Bad enough what you put me through until now. I got out. I'm trying to rebuild. Now that I had a chance to start over, you killed me. What's he going to do? Hate never got anybody anywhere. Right? Goes back to his town, starts all over again, and this is the 3rd time he has to build a life. Piece by piece, again, day after day, week after week, until finally the day comes that again he has money, and again he gets rid of his clothes, and he does the same thing all over, and he buys new clothing, and his whole life is in 2 suitcases, but this time he says, wait a second, I'm not going to the train station with this, once was enough. So he goes to a shipping company. He tells them, I want to ship 2 suitcases to Canada. Could you do it? They give him a price. He says, no problem. So give us an address. He says, I don't have one. So what do you mean you don't have one? Where are we shipping it to? I don't have an address. I'm going to Canada. So they said, all right, so if not an address, we'll keep it by one of our centers. Which part of Canada? So he thought to him Canada was roughly like Bells, the little neighborhood. So he said, I don't know, you tell me, where do you have centers? So they started giving him a list. Vancouver, Edmonton, this, Toronto, Montreal, there. He looks at the paper. Vancouver. That sounds like a nice name. Yeah, that's where I wanted to go to. Okay, Vancouver. He pays, what do they care? Gives them the stuff, goes to the train station. This time he has nothing to worry about. Gets a ticket, from there gets onto a boat. But again, he doesn't know Canada. Where's he going? He's going to Canada. Somehow, it's a long story how, but that doesn't make a difference now. On a Friday afternoon at the beginning of the winter, he ends up at the port of Montreal. But a Jew is a Jew. And even Jews that are very far away, but the taste of Shabbat, every Jew wants. Some people don't know what it is, it's not their fault. But anybody who knows what it is, they want it, no matter where they are. So he takes a cab, tells one of these drivers, do me a favor, drive me to that neighborhood where there's Jews. And he takes him into Montreal, where the Rrabbi used to live. And over there were tons of Hasidim. He stops the first Hasidic Jew on the street, and he says, I need a place to be for Shabbat. Can I come to you? So the guy tells him, you're more than welcome. But there's a catch. So he says, what's the catch? He says, we're 10 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. So you could sleep like under the dining room table maybe or something, but that's roughly what... He says, is there anybody in town that has maybe a bed that I could sleep on? One person. Who's that person? The Rrabbi. He has a big house, and anybody who wants is welcome to stay by him. Not bad, we should learn from that. He knocks on the Rrabbi's door 2 hours before Shabbat. Sometimes we get a call on Tuesday to host somebody for Shabbat. We say, no, you called too late, you got to give me 10 days planning. 2 hours before Shabbat, he knocks on the Rrabbi's door. He says, Rabbi, I need a place to stay. The Rabbi says, welcome, Baruch haba. Takes him in, gives him a room, takes care of him. Doesn't even ask him his name. Guy has the nicest Shabbat of his life. He's fed well, he sings, he's with the Rrabbi showers him with love, with care. This is all the Rrabbi did was build these broken souls. Saturday night, and Sunday morning he's leaving to Vancouver. So he goes to say thank you to the rabbi who hosted him. He goes into the rabbi and he says, Rabbi, tomorrow morning 8 o'clock, I'm leaving, I have a train somewhere. And the rabbi says, where are you going to? He says, Vancouver. And the rabbi tells him in Yiddish, was hosta Yid in Vancouver? What does a Jew have to find in Vancouver? Today I think there's a kollel there already, by the way. But in the 50s there wasn't. So he says, Rabbi, don't ask questions. That is where I'm going. He said, but you're not going to have a minyan. He said, I won't. What should I do? You're not going to have kosher food? I'll eat fruits and vegetables. You're not going to have this, that. Rabbi, that's where I'm going. So the Rebbe understood there must be something going on here, so he tells him, sir, go. I'm not going to stop you from going, it's free will. But just for my sanity, could you please explain me why you're going there? He says, and if the reason is because you need where to stay, live by me. You need money, I'll give you money. Anything you need, I'll give you, just stay here. He says, Rabbi, you don't understand. And he tells him the whole story. I went through the war, I suffered, this was the story, I came out, I built myself up. Finally, a few years later, I decided to leave. I was going to come to Canada. I put my whole life in 2 suitcases. I was in the train station. I put the suitcases down, and somebody stole my suitcases. I went back to my town. I started all over again for the 3rd time. I rebuilt everything. I put my life in 2 suitcases again. Rrabbi, those 2 suitcases are in Vancouver right now. And there's no way that I'm giving my life away for the 3rd time. I have to get my suitcases. Rrabbi smiles to him, he hugs him, he kisses him, he says, I wish you a safe trip, you should do well in everything you do, and if there's ever a day that you want to come back to Montreal, you're always welcome to be my guest. Right before he leaves, the guy turns to the Rrabbi and says, Rrabbi, where could I pray tomorrow morning? You said there's no minyan there. At least let me get the last time I'm praying in a minyan. He says 7 o'clock in the morning and the bells are shtibel, they have shacharit. 7 o'clock in the morning he goes, he prays shacharit. 7:30 in the morning he's done praying shacharit, he's about to leave, he's waiting for a cab outside. And a guy comes over to him, and he tells him, is your name Moshe Horowitz? And he says, yes. Did you live in this and this town in Europe? He says, yes. Are you a war survivor? He says, yes. Was there a time that you were in a train station and you had 2 suitcases that you put down and they were stolen? And he says, yes. Thank God! He says, thank God what? That my suitcases were stolen. He says, that I found you. So what do you mean? So let me tell you, I'm a survivor too, just like you. You were successful, I was poor. One day I see you leaving with 2 brand new suitcases filled with the best in the world. And I could not control myself. You put them down to buy the tickets, I grabbed the suitcases and I ran. Today, I'm in Montreal, I'm an Orthodox Jew, I feel terrible for the sin I did, and I've been praying for 2 years straight that God should send me a miracle and I should find you to be able to pay you back. Please tell me, how much money was that worth? The guy looks at him and says, forget about what my suitcases were worth. You ruined my life. There's no price you could pay for that. You destroyed me, you killed me. And he tells him, how much were the suitcases worth? It's $200. So I'll make you a deal. I'll give you $500 cash, which back then was a honrav, a fortune of money, on one condition. That you say out of your mouth clearly that you forgive me wholeheartedly and the story never happened. The guy makes a quick calculation. Here I'm going to Vancouver. I have no money. Yeah, I have 2 suitcases, but that's not going to get me far. $500, that could establish me for a while. That's a good deal. Give me the money. Takes the money, I forgive you wholeheartedly, 100%, no problem. This guy goes on his way, he goes on his way, and he's on his way to the train. He's about to board the train, and the Tasha Rebbe's words are singing in his ears. Was Hasta'id in Vancouver? What does a Jew have to do in Vancouver? Because until now I had an excuse of 2 suitcases. But now I got 4 suitcases back. Plus $100 interest on top of it. So now what's my excuse to go? And a Jew is a Jew. Turns around and gets back into a cab. He drives to the Tasha Rebbe's house. He says, Rebbe, the offer of if I ever want to come back to Montreal, does it still stand? And the Rebbe says, sure it does. Your room is still ready. We didn't even change the linen yet. Go straight back to your room. And now listen to this. He lives by the Rebbe for 5.5 months. Sometimes we have a guest for Shabbat and then they let us know they're staying Saturday night and we begin feeling uncomfortable. They're overstaying their boundaries. Maybe we don't know the importance of Achnasat Orchim and maybe tonight we should learn. 5.5 months. The Rebbe finds him a job. He teaches him personally. He takes care of his mental and emotional issues that he has from his past, and he finds him a wife. He marries him off. He gets him an apartment to live in. And then he leaves him on his own to grow. And he's the Rebbe's name. Now let's fast forward 14 years. This man is a father of 4 boys. And his oldest son is bar mitzvah age and he wants to go to yeshiva. And he doesn't like the local yeshiva in Tush. And he goes to his father and he says, Dad, I'm going to yeshiva in New York. And his father says, you're not leaving me, no way in the world. He said, Dad, I didn't say I'm leaving you. Come also to New York. If we have a problem sending our kids to study in Israel, instead of telling them, no, you can't go to Israel too. It's not a bad idea. They need the spirituality for at least a year. His father goes into the Tush Rebbe and he says, Rebbe, what do I do? My kid wants to go to New York. And the Tush Rebbe says, so go with him, move. You're a successful man. Continue your business there. God will be with you. You'll do well. He makes all the arrangements. One night he comes into the Tush Rebbe to part from him. He thanks him from the bottom of his heart for everything he did. He gave him another chance to life. There's no way to thank a person like that. They part. He promises to come back for the holidays to the Rebbe, and he's leaving the next morning in his car to New York. And on his way out of Montreal, he tells his wife, before we leave, I got to make one more stop. What? He said, I want to go to that guy, the thief, to his house. He said, because let's be real. If he would have not given me the money that day, I would have never stayed. I would have never married you, we wouldn't have kids, we wouldn't be religious. None of this would exist. So even though he's a terrible guy, but we still owe him a thank you. At least he came clean, at least he did teshuvah. And he knocks on this guy's door, the thief, and the guy opens up and says, yeah, what do you want? And he tells him in Yiddish, Ganevel, little thief, I came to speak to you for a few minutes. And the guy takes a minute and says, yeah, what do you want to speak to me about? He says, thank God, I'm married, I have 4 kids, I'm moving to New York, my son is going to yeshiva, my whole life. At the end of the day, you get a little bit credit over here, because if not for you, I would have never done this. So I came to say thank you very much. And the guy looks at him and he says, until now I wasn't allowed to tell this to you, but now I want to share with you a story. So on Saturday night at 4 a.m., it was banging on my door. I opened the door and there was standing the Tush Rebbe. I said, Rebbe, what are you doing at 4 o'clock in the morning outside my house? And the Rebbe said, I can't sleep because there's a Jew that's about to go to Vancouver and lose his life forever. And I said, and what do you want me to do, blow up the train? And the Rebbe says, no, he's going over 2 suitcases. What a stupid way to sell a soul. And he takes out $500 from his pocket. And he gives it to me. And he says, tomorrow morning you're going to pay in this and this synagogue. And after Shaharit you're going over to this Jew and you're going to tell him that you were the thief. And give him the $500 on a condition that he says the story never happened. And maybe then his heart will open up. And he'll stay. And we'll save the Jew. The guy tells him, I went to the Rebbe and I said, you really think I'm going to be a thief? What else is new? And the Rebbe tells him like this, is there anything in your life that you need? He says, yes. And he told him something, don't hold me to this because this detail I don't remember, but I'm almost sure it was kids. And he said, I promise you if you do this tomorrow in 14 days, you'll have what you need. That's a cheap price to pay for a child. And he says, and I came to you that morning and thank God everything worked out to perfection. I'm so happy to hear that you're going to New York and your son's going to yeshiva. And I tell you this story today for 2 reasons. Number 1, before you leave, go back to the Tush Rebbe and tell him thank you for what he really did for you. And number 2, next time you visit me, please don't call me a thief. I'm pretty old. I'm not that old. Did we get a little glimpse in what a Jew is commanded to do for another Jew? How much we have to care to save a Jewish life who's a total stranger, who has his ways set to do the opposite thing. The Rebbe could have said, I tried, I did my best, I hosted him, I tried to convince him, it's not my fault. And we would have lost 4 Torah sages. And this guy in the hospital in Miami Beach a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago by now, turns to this Gabbai and he tells him, I'm the grandson of that man. I have a way that you could tip your scale like this. If you become a person whose life revolves around helping other people, who he gives himself up, whatever it is, I help, I'm in, I'm going to do, I want to make a difference. I guarantee you that everything will be okay. In the world as a whole, and in Israel especially, there's no doubt about it that we're facing very tough times. Only a blind man doesn't see what's going on. The United States of America has a wonderful habit called debt, and a habit that don't look like it's going to change anytime soon. The Europeans are all, one country has to hold the whole Europe. Everybody else is either in bankruptcy or on the way to bankruptcy, but one way or the other. So tichlep putam in akis, that there's people are broke all over, we see in front of our eyes. But that's a small problem. And then came two new things that we didn't have to deal with for a long time. Israel, for many, many years, had the greatest arrangement with one of its enemies, Egypt. On the outside we were enemies, and under the table we were best friends. We had 264 kilometers of border that never had an incident in all the years. They weren't even patrolled. There was no need. Everything was peaceful. And then, thanks to the tragedy of our generation known as Facebook, there was an uprising, which the United States government supported, thinking that this is what's going to make a difference in democracy. And little did they know, they built the next terror cell of the world with their own hands. Turkey was our greatest ally. We have IDF military bases in Turkey. We had, past tense. They were thrown out 2 weeks ago. They became our biggest enemy. The Turkish Prime Minister goes to Egypt to match opinions, and their opinions summarized in 2 Arabic words, Ilayam, we want to see you in the ocean. Not to mention that lunatic in Syria and everybody around us. Today, we are living the prophecy of Hein Am Levadad Yishkon. This is a nation that lives 100% on its own. There's nobody that loves us. They're going for a vote in the United Nations. What the result is really doesn't make a difference. It's not even worth reading. What this is going to do, only God knows where the outcome of this will be. But all the IDF analysts, in one big sentence, say it's just a matter of, at most a year, that we'll be back to the situation we were in 48, that we have to go to a war with all of our neighbors together. And we all belong in Israel. And if we're not in Israel, we're not right, we're wrong. So meaning they are right. So we have to care about what's going on there. This has to be in our blood. This has to be in our life. So number one, Rav Steinman, who was one of the great Torah sages in Israel, wrote a letter last week urging each and every Jew, no matter what, every single day to add on a chapter to Tehillim for the protection of the Jews in Israel. And to have especially in mind the protection of our soldiers that are patrolling the borders day and night, and they're at great risk. Let me tell you, I come on one side of my family from an Israeli background. All my cousins are in the army. Many of them. Their moms don't sleep at night. Until they don't get the message in the morning, my night shift was okay. There's not one night, not 2 nights, not 3 nights, years and years and years and years. We sleep really well at night. In the worst case scenario, our credit card bill's a little bigger than it should be, so we twist the drop. That's the extent of the worry. The least we could do is have in our heart, in our mind, in our soul, in our prayers, these holy kids that God should bring them back home safely. Amen. Amen. But number 2, in New York City, something happened in the past since September 5th that in the history of the United States never happened before. The MTA, public transportation in New York, has billboards that you could rent. If you own a drink or a company or whatever it is, you could rent the billboard and put up a sign and advertise. In many of the subway stations in New York City in the past 10 days, this is what we see. Huge posters, big billboards, lit up, bright, the most expensive ones, with what seems to be an innocent picture of a father and a son smiling to each other, and big letters on the top. Be on our side. And on the bottom in small it says, stop all funding to Israel. This is the first time ever in the United States that on a government property they have anti-Semitic signs. And we know where this begins, and we don't know where this ends. This is not a scare tactic. This is not a reason for us to be scared. We have God who protects us. Gam ki elech begates al mavet. Even when I walk in the valley of death, lo yira ra, I have no fear, ki ata imadi, because you, Borei Olam, are with me. But what this is a prophecy. The Zohar Kadosh writes 2,000 years ago that in the final stage before redemption, there will be something called Milchemet Gog uMagog, the final war. Chafetz Chaim said possibly it happened in World War I and World War II, and I would like to believe that opinion. That makes things a lot more pleasant. But even if it didn't, I found brought down in Kitvei HaMaarav that there is a possibility that the war that's going to happen will not be a physical war. Nobody's fighting over it. It will be a virtual war. A war of the nations of the world getting together in a building to gang up against Israel with its head, Jerusalem. Those are the words of the Zohar. And what are they going to do this week? The nations of the world are getting together to fight Israel and what they call the capital of Palestine, Jerusalem. 2,000 years ago, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote this. And when he wrote this, he wrote that this is Chevlo Shel Mashiach, the final signs of the redemption. My brothers and sisters, I break all rules of everything I normally say. I'm not a man who talks future. I don't do these type of things. I try to stick to the text and a little bit of stories. That's where it starts and that's where it ends. But if this might be the case, even if there's a 1% chance that this is the case, this got to be a really big wake-up call for all of us. And this is not the time to joke around. The jokes were good for the first hour. This is the time to talk business. In my opinion, those posters that are standing in the subways of New York are a message to the whole Jewish nation. And the timing of them coming out exactly, Hey Elul, right in the beginning of Chodesh Elul, wasn't a coincidence, because there is no coincidence in the world. Everything that's brought down in the Torah happens for a reason. That's God looking at us. He put a father and a son. He's the father, we're the son. And he turns to each and every one of us. And he says, we're at war. As we learned last week in the parasha. Ki teitzei lamilchama lo yivecha, we're at war with Yetzer Hara. And he turns to us and he says, Ubachalta b'chaim, choose life. Be on our side. That's what's going to make the difference to Am Yisrael. That's what's going to make the difference to our next year. And that's what's going to make a difference that, God willing, soon we'll all merit to see how all those who plotted against us, their plots will blow up in their face in the nastiest way with the biggest boomerang effect. And we will dance and sing as we walk the streets of Jerusalem. V'techezena eineinu b'shuvcha l'tzion b'rachamim b'meira. Thank you for having me and thank you for listening.
Amen.